Lithuania, a nation carved by the swords of knights and the will of partisans, where ancient paganism and Christian spires stand side by side. This is the history of Lithuania. Lithuania's story begins in the depths of prehistory, with the first humans venturing into its territories in the latter half of the 10th millennium BC, following the retreat of the glaciers that marked the last ice age. These early inhabitants, likely arriving from the Jutland Peninsula and present-day Poland, introduced distinct cultures to the region, evident in the tools and artifacts they left behind. Initially nomadic hunters, the warming climate of the 8th millennium BC nurtured dense forests, prompting these early communities to adopt a more settled lifestyle, focusing on local hunting, gathering, and fishing. By the 6th-5th millennia BC, signs of domestication and more sophisticated dwellings emerged, signaling the dawn of a new era of family life and social organization. Yet, it was not until the 3rd millennium BC that agriculture began to take root, hindered by the challenging climate and terrain, alongside a scarcity of suitable farming tools. Speakers of northwestern Indo-European arrived with the corded ware culture. The Balts, the ancestors of modern Lithuanians, are part of this ancient Indo-European lineage. Over centuries, the Baltic tribes maintained sporadic trade contacts with the Roman Empire, and later with Scandinavian traders during the Viking Age, yet largely remained isolated from the major European trade routes. The Lithuanians' pre-Christian religious practices, characterized by their reverence for nature and ancestor worship, endured well into the 14th century, making them one of the last European peoples to adopt Christianity. This steadfast adherence to ancient traditions is a testament to the Lithuanians' deep connection to their land and heritage. By the 10th and 11th centuries, the foundations of Lithuanian society were well established, with local principalities paving the way for the political unification under Prince Mindaugas in 1236. This unification was catalyzed by the external pressures of German crusaders, who had made inroads into the Baltic region, establishing Riga in 1201 and posing a threat to the Lithuanian heartland. Mindaugas's conversion to Christianity in 1251 and his subsequent coronation as the King of Lithuania, sanctioned by the Pope, marked a significant turning point. However, his return to paganism underscores the enduring pull of Lithuanian traditions and the complex interplay between emerging statehood and ancient beliefs. Towards the end of the 13th century, several princes consolidated and expanded the Lithuanian realm, but it was only with Grand Duke Gediminas that Lithuania's eastward expansion took on significant dimensions. Although Gediminas did not convert to Christianity, he sought to reduce Lithuania's cultural isolation by inviting merchants, craftsmen, and monks to settle in Vilnius. According to tradition, he is credited with making Vilnius the capital. Upon Gediminas's death, he left behind a vast realm inhabited by both Lithuanians and Slavic peoples, including large parts of what is now Belarus. The Lithuanians were too few in number to undertake any colonization, and Lithuanian warriors often married into local noble families and converted to Christianity. Following Gediminas' demise, his realm was divided among his 7 sons, 2 of whom retained control over the kingdom: Algirdas in Vilnius and Kęstutis at the Trakai castle. Algirdas expanded the realm eastwards, including Kiev, and upon his death in 1382, his son Jogaila continued the struggle against Kęstutis and his son Vytautas. Concurrently, external threats intensified. While some Lithuanian nobles in the east advocated for an alliance with Moscow, Catholic Poland was preferred as a more effective ally. The baptism of Jogaila and his subsequent marriage to Queen Hedwig forged a powerful Polish-Lithuanian union, resilient enough to challenge the Teutonic Order's might. Crowned as King Władysław II of Poland, Jogaila faced the complex task of unifying Poland and Lithuania under a single crown. This endeavor proved to be difficult, leading to the 1392 agreement that bestowed governance of Lithuania upon his cousin, Grand Duke Vytautas. For years, both Lithuania and Poland had been locked in strife with the formidable Teutonic Knights, a conflict that reached its zenith at the Battle of Grunwald. This monumental clash saw combatants from across Europe converge in a struggle that would be remembered as one of the largest battles of the medieval period. The joint Polish-Lithuanian force, estimated at around 40,000, faced off against the Teutonic Order, numbering approximately 30,000. Despite the Teutonic Knights' renowned military skill, they faced a cunning adversary. The Allies, under the wise leadership of King Władysław II and Grand Duke Vytautas, feigned a retreat, luring the Knights deeper before launching a devastating counter-assault with their heavy cavalry. This tactical maneuver, coupled with the Allied forces' superior numbers and morale, culminated in a decisive victory against the Teutonic Order. The Battle of Grunwald stands not only as a pivotal confrontation in medieval Europe, but also as a defining moment in the histories of Poland and Lithuania, symbolizing a significant triumph over the Teutonic Order. This victory marked the beginning of the Order's rapid decline, effectively ceasing their eastward expansion and altering the course of Central European history. Under Vytautas the Great, Lithuania reached the zenith of its power and territory, becoming one of the largest states in Europe. The Grand Duchy then encompassed present-day Belarus, most of today's Ukraine, and parts of western Russia near Smolensk. In 1422, Samogitia in the northwest was recaptured from the Teutonic Order, allowing Lithuania to stretch from the Baltic to the Black Sea, upon Vytautas' death in 1430. The introduction of Catholicism in the 14th century brought Lithuania culturally closer to Western Europe. Although Poland and Lithuania were formally equal in the Union, Poland became the dominant internal party. The Lithuanian nobility gradually became culturally Polonized, and by the end of the 17th century, the distinctions were almost non-existent. Polish language prevailed, while the peasants continued to speak Lithuanian, Belarusian, or Ukrainian. From the beginning of the 16th century, most peasants were bound to the land through serfdom, with gradually heavier obligations. The union between Poland and Lithuania did not maintain the same character throughout, but was strengthened by external threats. Eventually, Moscow took over the role the Teutonic Order had played as Lithuania's most formidable challenger. From around 1500, the easternmost parts of the Lithuanian Empire were gradually conquered by the Grand Duchy of Moscow, which expanded both westward and eastward into the Tsardom of Russia. As Lithuania engaged in war with Russia during the Livonian Wars, it became more reliant on Polish support, and the Lithuanian nobility accepted the transformation of the personal union into a real union at Lublin on July 1, 1569. Lithuania was to remain a separate state with its own laws and institutions, but in addition to a common king, there would also be a joint diet. As the 18th century waned, the once mighty Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth faced its decline, a fading political power caught in the throes of attempted reforms and foreign intervention. The fragmentation of this grand union through 3 successive partitions erased it from the map of Europe. The initial partition saw Lithuania relinquish territories predominantly inhabited by East Slavs. However, the third partition was a direct assault on the heartland of Lithuania, dissecting lands home to ethnic Lithuanians and placing the majority under the Russian imperial yoke, while a fragment to the southwest fell to Prussian hands. This era marked the onset of Lithuania's long night under Russian rule, a period punctuated by harsh suppressions, waves of Russification, and the relentless extinguishing of Lithuanian identity and autonomy. The annexation by Prussia, followed by incorporation into the Grand Duchy of Warsaw under Napoleon, and eventually falling back under Russian dominion at the Congress of Vienna, crafted a unique administrative and judicial identity for the region, distinct from the remainder of Lithuania. Here, under the shadow of French and later Russian rule, reforms such as the abolition of serfdom carved a divergent path for this segment of Lithuanian territory. The Polish uprisings of 1830, 31, and 1863, seeking to reclaim lost sovereignty, found echoes in Lithuania, drawing severe reprisals from the Tsarist regime. The aftermath of these insurrections saw the intensification of Russification efforts, stripping away the Lithuanian essence from public life. The closure of the University of Vilnius and the abolition of the Lithuanian legal code were symbolic acts of cultural erasure, aimed at integrating the Lithuanian lands into the Russian imperial fabric. The imposition of the Russian language and the Cyrillic alphabet sought not only to suppress but to erase Lithuanian identity. Yet from the depths of oppression rose a defiant Lithuanian spirit, birthing a national renaissance that thrived in secrecy and resilience. The schools of the hearth, informal village gatherings for education in Lithuanian, became bastions of resistance. Lithuanian publications smuggled in from East Prussia defied the Cyrillic imposition, weaving threads of unity and identity among the Lithuanian people. The flickers of liberalization post the 1905 Russian Revolution marked a pivotal moment in Lithuania's struggle. The lifting of press prohibitions and the emergence of the first Lithuanian daily newspaper signaled a shift, albeit slight, towards cultural and linguistic emancipation. The Vilnius Congress of 1905, with its bold demand for autonomy based on ethnic boundaries and the will of the people, encapsulated the enduring Lithuanian yearning for self-determination and sovereignty, setting the stage for the tumultuous yet triumphant path towards independence.
Nothing like independence, is there?
As the tumult of World War I reshaped the European landscape, Lithuania found itself under the shadow of German military occupation by late 1915. This period, though marked by foreign dominion, inadvertently sowed the seeds for Lithuania's long-cherished aspiration for sovereignty. The German authorities, aiming to mold Lithuania into a satellite state post-war, unknowingly facilitated a crucial step towards Lithuanian self-determination. The Vilnius Gathering of September 1917, a congress of 214 Lithuanian delegates, emerged as a beacon of hope and ambition. This assembly, resolute in its vision, called for the establishment of an independent Lithuanian state within its ethnic borders, with Vilnius as the rightful capital. The formation of the Taryba, a 20-member council, was a declaration of Lithuania's readiness to steer its destiny. On February 16, 1918, amidst the uncertainty of occupation and the chaos of a world at war, the Taryba boldly proclaimed the independence of Lithuania. This historic declaration marked the birth of a nation long subjugated, yet unbroken in spirit and unity. However, the path to true sovereignty was fraught with hurdles. The German withdrawal following the November armistice left a vacuum that the Soviets swiftly sought to fill, casting a new shadow of invasion from the east. By January 5, 1919, Vilnius fell to the Red Army, prompting the installation of a communist government and forcing the national government to retreat to Kaunas. By mid-1919, the tide of conflict began to turn. With resilience and determination, the Lithuanian forces repelled the Soviet threat, gradually reclaiming their homeland. In the interwar period, Lithuania grappled with both external and internal challenges as it sought to cement its sovereignty and navigate a complex international landscape. Internationally, Lithuania's induction into the League of Nations in 1921 marked its emergence on the global stage, though this achievement was overshadowed by persistent territorial disputes, particularly over Vilnius and Klaipėda. Vilnius, a symbol of Lithuanian nationalism, was contested fiercely with Poland, reflecting deep historical ties and ethnic tensions. Despite international efforts and temporary control changes, Vilnius was annexed by Poland in 1922, a situation Lithuania never officially accepted. Meanwhile, Klaipėda, with its strategic maritime importance and mixed identity, became a focal point of contention with Germany, particularly as Nazi influence grew, leading to its cession in 1939. Domestically, Lithuania's attempt to establish a parliamentary democracy faced obstacles, leading to political instability and the rise of an authoritarian regime under Antanas Smetona after a coup in 1926. This shift marked a move away from democratic aspirations, with Smetona's regime dominating the political scene and stifling opposition. Despite a brief move towards political inclusivity in 1938 with a new constitution, Lithuania's political evolution was halted by the onset of World War II, leaving the nation at a crossroads, with its independence and democratic development in jeopardy. The fragile independence that Lithuania had fought so hard to secure was swiftly overshadowed by the darkening clouds of World War II. The German-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact of August 23, 1939, included a secret protocol that, unbeknownst to the world, plotted the fate of the Baltic states, earmarking Lithuania's northern boundary as the dividing line between German and Soviet spheres of influence. Lithuania's decision to remain neutral as war broke out around it was soon challenged by shifting alliances and territorial ambitions. A subsequent secret protocol, on September 28, 1939, between Germany and the Soviet Union, further ensnared Lithuania within the Soviet sphere, save for a small portion in the southwest. This diplomatic maneuvering set the stage for Soviet demands that led to the Treaty of Mutual Assistance on October 10, 1939. Under this treaty, Lithuania was coerced into hosting Soviet military bases on its soil, a bitter pill sweetened only by the return of Vilnius and its environs, a territory long contested with Poland and recognized by Soviet Russia in 1920 as Lithuanian. The veneer of sovereignty was shattered on June 15, 1940, when the Soviet Union presented Lithuania with an ultimatum that precipitated its occupation. The constitutional order crumbled as President Smetona fled, leaving behind a power vacuum that was quickly filled by Soviet sympathizers, culminating in the unconstitutional appointment of Justas Paleckis as acting president and prime minister, the subsequent elections in July, and the unanimous call for incorporation into the Soviet Union by the newly formed parliament were but a facade, leading to the formal annexation of Lithuania by the Soviet Union on August 3, 1940. The Sovietization of Lithuania ensued, reconfiguring the political, social, economic, and cultural landscape to fit the Soviet mold. Despite previous land reforms creating a nation of smallholders, Soviet policies sought to reshape Lithuania's agrarian structure. The initial deportations of the political elite soon expanded into large-scale removals that affected approximately 35,000 citizens, deeply scarring the Lithuanian populace. The German invasion of the Soviet Union ignited a brief insurrection against Soviet rule, offering a fleeting hope for independence restoration. However, the establishment of the Ostland province by Germany, comprising the Baltic states and Belarus, quashed these aspirations. The Lithuanian provisional government's refusal to collaborate with the German occupiers led to its dissolution, marking the beginning of a brutal occupation that saw significant human losses, particularly within the Jewish community, which faced near total extermination. As World War II waned, the Soviet shadow once again fell over Lithuania, reasserting control by the end of 1944. The ensuing years were marked by severe repression, a heavy-handed Russification campaign, and the stifling of Lithuanian culture under Stalinist dictates. The period was characterized by a relentless effort to quash the remnants of Lithuanian independence and integrate the nation firmly into the Soviet sphere. In the face of Soviet oppression, a resilient guerrilla resistance emerged, symbolizing the indomitable spirit of the Lithuanian people. At its zenith, this underground movement marshaled up to 40,000 fighters, persisting into the early 1950s despite facing overwhelming odds. This period also saw a series of brutal deportations to the remote expanses of Siberia and Central Asia as part of the Soviet collectivization agenda, displacing around 220,000 individuals in a series of waves aimed at breaking the backbone of Lithuanian society. However, the late 1950s and early 1960s heralded a thaw within the USSR, bringing a semblance of liberalization to the stifling atmosphere of Soviet Lithuania. This era saw the gradual nativization of the Lithuanian Communist Party, previously dominated by Soviet-appointed officials under the long tenure of Antanas Sniečkus. Concurrently, Lithuania underwent significant industrialization and urbanization, setting the stage for socio-economic changes that, to some extent, shielded the republic from the extensive influx of labor from other parts of the Soviet Union. As a result, Lithuania retained a degree of ethnic homogeneity, with Lithuanians constituting about 80% of the population by the early 1990s. Despite a resurgence of ideological rigidity in the 1970s and early 1980s, the flame of national consciousness continued to burn brightly. An expansive dissident movement flourished, with Lithuania distinguishing itself by producing a significant volume of samizdat, underground publications that defied Soviet censorship. Among these, the Chronicle of the Lithuanian Catholic Church, launched in 1972, stood as a beacon of defiance and resilience, outliving the Soviet regime itself. The twilight of the 1980s heralded a transformative era for the USSR, with Mikhail Gorbachev's policies of glasnost and perestroika catalyzing unprecedented political change. In Lithuania, these winds of change breathed life into Sonjudis, a mass reform movement poised against the stagnant Soviet status quo. On the 23rd of August 1989, half a century subsequent to the signing of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, a monumental gesture of unity and defiance unfolded across the Baltics. Latvians, Lithuanians, and Estonians, in a profound demonstration of solidarity, clasped hands to form a human chain. This living linkage spanned an impressive distance of 600 kilometers, weaving its way from Tallinn through to Vilnius. Dubbed the Baltic Way, this momentous event was orchestrated to captivate the attention of the global audience, shedding light on the enduring plight of the Baltic nations. The pivotal 1990 elections culminated in a legislature poised for historic action, declaring on March 11th the restoration of Lithuania's independence, a bold reaffirmation of national sovereignty that echoed beyond its borders. The Soviet response, a blend of economic sanctions and military posturing, failed to stifle the burgeoning spirit of independence. A critical moment arrived on January 13, 1991, when a Soviet attempt to reclaim authority resulted in bloodshed, yet ultimately faltered, strengthening Lithuania's resolve. The failed coup in Moscow in August 1991 further solidified Lithuania's position on the world stage, culminating in international recognition and the reclamation of its political independence. The early post-Soviet years were a period of profound transformation and reorientation for Lithuania. The 1992 elections saw the former Communist Party, rebranded as the Lithuanian Democratic Labour Party, secure a legislative majority. Contrary to expectations, the LDLP championed economic liberalization, spearheaded Lithuania's integration into European institutions, and laid the groundwork for future membership in the European Union and NATO. Despite initial successes, the mid-1990s were marred by internal discord, allegations of corruption, and economic challenges that eroded public confidence in the government. The 1996 elections heralded a shift in power, with a coalition of the Christian Democratic Party and the Centre Party prioritizing economic liberalization and foreign investment. In 1998, Valdas Adamkus emerged as president, embodying a commitment to transparency and anti-corruption measures. Lithuania's economy, initially tethered to Russia and beset by recession, gradually pivoted towards Western Europe, culminating in a significant reduction in inflation and an increase in trade with the EU. The tumultuous political landscape saw further drama with the impeachment of President Rolandas Paksas in 2003 over allegations of constitutional violations and ties to organized crime, paving the way for Adamkus's return to office in 2004. That same year, Lithuania's aspirations on the international stage were realized with full membership in the EU and NATO, marking a milestone in its post-Soviet recovery. However, the journey was not without its challenges. Economic turbulence in 2008, compounded by the rejection of Lithuania's bid to join the Eurozone, sparked significant unrest. The election of Dalia in 2009 as Lithuania's first female president heralded a new era of economic policy aimed at revitalization and European integration. Today, Lithuania stands as a shining example of progress and resilience, firmly established as a developed nation boasting a burgeoning economy. It has carved a niche for itself as a beacon of digital innovation, championing groundbreaking advancements in technology and public services. Moreover, the country has taken significant steps toward energy independence, diversifying its energy sources to enhance national security and sustainability. However, this journey of growth and development is not without its hurdles. Lithuania grapples with the challenge of brain drain, where its brightest minds seek opportunities abroad, potentially hampering future innovation and growth. Additionally, its geopolitical landscape is marked by a complex and cautious relationship with Russia, reflecting historical tensions and contemporary concerns. A chronicle of enduring sovereignty against the odds, from its zenith as a European powerhouse to its rebirth from the shadows of occupation to a path towards potential greatness. That was the history of Lithuania. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, please carry on, or as the Lithuanians would say, girtas kaip kiaulė.